Did you all enjoy the lunch? Now we will begin the discussion session. This session will be moderated by Mr. Ramu Damodaran, the Chief of UNAI Secretariat of Outreach Division of Department of Public Information of United Nations. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you so much, and welcome back, everyone. This morning, when the Secretary General was speaking, he made very detailed and specific reference to the academic impact being an opportunity for a movement of young minds. And quite frankly, when we started this initiative about 5 years ago, we really did not see it as gathering so much enthusiasm between the many people of that age that I see here today. We really thought it would be at a much more aged level, senior academics working, researchers working. But the fact that all of you are here, I think vindicates both what the Secretary General said this morning and the spirit of this forum today, the idea of global citizenship, which really begins with each one of you. In this particular panel, we are going to reconcile two initiatives of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, the academic impact and the more recent Global Education First initiative, which is called GEFI for short, not to be confused with Jeffy Sachs, but be that as it may. The lead speaker in this particular session was to have been Ambassador Oh Jun, the permanent representative of the Republic of Korea to the United Nations. Ambassador Oh has the distinction of having served 3 times in the permanent mission of Korea to the United Nations. And since he was not able to be with us this afternoon, we thought the only person who could improve upon that record and stand in his place is Ambassador Seyoung Lee, who has served in the permanent mission of the Republic of Korea on 4 occasions. So Ambassador Lee, Ambassador Oh did ask me to express his thanks and appreciation to you for standing in for him, and we're very grateful that you will share with us the remarks that he intended to make. Please come over, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Damodaran. And the Ambassador Oh Jun, he's a current ambassador to UN, and one of his responsibilities is to accompany the Secretary General Pan wherever he goes in Korea. So he came back to accompany him. And now they are going to Ewha University this afternoon so that the Secretary General Pan will become will receive honorary doctor's degree in that university, and Ambassador Oh should accompany him. So under these difficult circumstances, he came to me and my response to that, and I said, of course you should accompany Secretary General Ban. Then what will happen to his speech, which is very, very important speech. I read it. And so I decided to volunteer to speak on his behalf. Of course, whenever I say I, it's not me, it's Ambassador Oh. Huh? Don't misunderstand me. And I'm not responsible for that. Ambassador Oh is, as Mr. Damodaran mentioned, served in the Korean mission to UN 3 times. And he wants to break my record. I served in the UN mission 4 times. So he's about to break my, at least we might become even when he serves at UN mission once again. But in addition to that, he served as assistant to Secretary General Ban when he was the senior advisor to the Korean Foreign Minister Han Sung-soo when he was President of the General Assembly, and he needed assistant, special assistant, and he asked Ambassador Ban at the time to be his help. So he served with the President Han Sung-soo, but also Ambassador Oh was at the time assistant to the Secretary General Ban. So allow me to read his speech. So I'm not a speaker, but I am a transmitter of Mr. Ambassador Oh Jun's speech to all of you, because we are here to serve you this afternoon. So I volunteered. So thank you very much, the organizers, for allowing me to speak on Ambassador Oh's behalf. Excellencies and distinguished guests, first of all, I would like to commend the efforts of UNAI Korea in organizing this event. Today's gathering is a timely and valuable opportunity to share a variety of ideas regarding education, especially in the run-up to the post-2015 Development Summit in September. Education is a key ingredient in promoting the universal values of the United Nations Charter. In particular, among various educational agendas, global citizenship education receives a great deal of attention due to its value-oriented characteristics. It shares a common understanding of the importance of universal values such as justice, human rights, gender equality, and cultural diversity, as well as other core responsibilities of the global community, such as tolerance, peace, and environmental sustainability. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's Global Education First Initiative, called GEFI, in 2012, highlighted global citizenship education as one of three pillars, together with access and equality. The new development agenda to succeed the Millennium Development Goals, now being discussed in New York, includes global citizenship as one of the targets under the standalone education goal. Not least given the strong need to tackle global challenges such as violent extremism, global citizenship education is now more widely recognized in the context of a shifting paradigm regarding the role of education in the 21st century. Earlier this year, Secretary General Ban urged UN member states to demonstrate global citizenship while simultaneously acknowledging the crucial role of global citizenship education in tackling intolerance and extremism through the promotion of mutual understanding. Director General Ina Bokova of UNESCO also emphasized the importance of global citizenship education together with cultural literacy in countering tolerance and violent extremism. Most recently, the UNESCO Executive Board adopted its decision at the 196th session in April 2015, which focuses on the role and responsibilities of UNESCO in global citizenship education. In spite of such progress, there remain a number of challenges. First, actors and the stakeholders should be expanded in addition to governmental agencies and intergovernmental organs. The participation of the private sector, including educational institutions and NGOs, is critical to promote global citizenship in the post-2015 era. Much stronger multi-stakeholder partnerships in educational circles will be a key to the success in that regard. Alongside horizontal expansion, a vertical enlargement is also important. More active youth engagement by UNAI's action by students to promote innovation and reform through education, which is now called Aspire, is a good example. We should keep in mind that the younger generation will not only be recipients, but also enablers in the future. In addition, forging a stronger relationship among education-related UN initiatives is of great importance. As Jeffrey has already indicated general citizenship education as one of its three pillars, closer cooperation between UNAI, which is focusing on higher education, and Jeffrey, which is concentrating on primary and secondary education, should be pursued for better synergies. Last but not least, implementation of the targets and the consistent monitoring are essential for the success of the sustainable development goals. Education initiatives with appropriate mandates can play a critical role in implementing the new development goals and adequately assessing results, which will contribute to a better urban education system. As such, UNAI can be instrumental in the implementation of the post-2015 development agenda and in the assessment of educational achievements. Ladies and gentlemen, global citizenship education will help strengthen the United Nations, the only universal global body comprising all states in the world. It is to embrace all three pillars of the United Nations: peace, development, and human rights. Clear messages on the importance of global citizenship education should be continuously developed and disseminated to all stakeholders. It is probably one of the best things we can do for the future of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Lee, for sharing with us the words and the wisdom of Ambassador Oh Jun. The Republic of Korea was on the Security Council in 2013 and 2014, and in one of his last speeches before the term of Korea came to an end, the Council was discussing the situation in North Korea, and Ambassador Oh made one of the most moving speeches that have been heard in the Security Council. And he had a wonderful phrase there. He said, "For us, the people in North Korea are not anybody's, they are somebody's." And I think that is the same spirit, Ambassador Lee, that you captured in Ambassador Oh's words when you're speaking of global citizenship, because the reason that we relate to each other in a global citizenry is because to each one of us, the other is a somebody and not just an anybody. So thank you very much for that. The point with which Ambassador Oh began about the roots of global citizenship being instilled in justice, in human rights, in gender equality, in environmental sustainability, these are attributes which really, in an academic discipline sense, resonate with the field of the arts and humanities. Because for those of us who've been privileged to linger in those disciplines, either in the course of our student life or in extracurricular capacities, we will find that it is those values that animate them. And the idea that Ambassador Oh spoke of values is, I think, a wonderful link to our next speaker, Professor William Cordelli, who is the chair of the Department of Arts and Humanities at Teachers College in Columbia University, and who will bring us his perspective of global citizenship education, what we are trying to do from UNAI and from Jeffy, and what you, sir, in the academic community think you can do and what we should do. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Damodaran, and thank you all for coming. Welcome back from our after lunch session, a lovely lunch, multiple course lunch, one that I'm not used to eating, but I really enjoyed it very much. And thank you all for your hospitality and having me here. It was a long trip, but well worth the journey. Also, special thanks to Ambassador Lee and Ambassador Oh for your remarks, and President Kim, I anticipate yours as well, and look forward to what you have to share with us. So, education ministers, they are in an unenviable position, aren't they? They are being pushed and pulled in many directions at the same time. There are changes in politics. There are changes in educational discourse. There are changes in the national, regional, and global economies that demand their attention. I had a small flavor of what that might be like. I was a member of a school board in the town where I lived for 4 years, and it was a very difficult position to be in. I can't imagine being responsible for an educational system that is in charge, in many cases, of hundreds of thousands, or in many cases, millions of students. Very challenging. And yet, while I'm very sympathetic to the position of educational ministries, I nevertheless must implore you to act. The situation in which we find ourselves globally, living interconnectedly, and yet behaving as though we do not, requires full attention and action. Buckminster Fuller, a visionary of the first global era, upon hearing of the news of the bombing of Hiroshima in August of '45, he wrote in his diary, "Humanity is now in final exam as to whether it qualifies or not for continuance." 70 years later, in this anniversary of World War II, that final exam looms much larger than before. We are at a moment in time where we face the paradoxical capacity to destroy much of what the modern era has achieved. But we also have the opportunity, the chance, one that may not come again, to pivot towards a more just, sustainable, and tolerant global society. I say pivot intentionally here, because a subtle change is not enough, and it will not be sufficient. We need dramatic changes, and we need them now in education. The challenges are myriad: climate warming and environmental degradation, regional insecurity, severe intolerance, grave injustices, and an ever-widening north-south gap. Just the beginning of what quickly becomes a litany of world problems. My aim is not to overwhelm you with that information, but rather I want to suggest ways that you can encourage educators in your ranks and students who are here today to join in this vital cause of thinking about the problem of global citizenship differently, about what it means to educate for the future. There's a child being born in Seoul today who will still be here well into the 22nd century, alive and well in the year 2115. As difficult as it is to imagine this, we would be wise to begin to think of the quality of that child's life over the duration of the next century. Will she know peace or war? Will she experience the joys of living in diverse communities with others, or the anxiety of living in isolated fear of others? Will she know the aesthetic and material potentials and blessings of the biosphere? Or will she only suffer environmental degradation? These are the right questions to be asking of this child born today in Seoul. Thinking about the world temporally, we are reminded of the lovely Kenyan adage, "This land was not given to you by your parents. This land is on loan to you from your children." My first suggestion then for global citizenship education is that we begin to think of ourselves, our earth, of each other, in a temporal way, or in light of time. This is perhaps the most difficult aspect of learning to think globally, since people are notoriously bad, all of us, at understanding time. I'm reminded of this when I look in the mirror each day and fully expect to see a 25-year-old version of myself looking back. When he's not there, I use that humbling moment to recall how incapable of grasping the slippage of time we all are, even when we are aware of its incapacity. On a broader scale, can anyone fully grasp that the Millennium Development Goals are already at the end of the first time marker, 2015? It seems like a few weeks back that I was reading the initial version. And yet here we are, with a temporal understanding of ourselves that belies our capacity to know. It humbles us. Speaking of humility, I want to suggest that this too is a critical element of global citizenship education. It may seem odd, given that we usually feel proud when we know more things, or we feel satisfaction at possessing knowledge about the world, about each other. In fact, global citizenship education is less about knowing more and more about all that we do not know about each other and the circumstances of our world. That is not to suggest that we revel in our ignorance, no, but rather to recognize our limits and be open to all that those can teach us. In the Jewish tradition, a yarmulke, or a kippah, is, among other things, a tangible reminder of the limit of man's ability to know oneself, before the heart of God. It seems that this simple reminder is one that could benefit all people in all faiths and not of faiths, all of us, as we encourage and invite people to comprehend or know the world and to act in solidarity within it. Lastly, global citizenship education ought to be simultaneously everyday and transformative, at once mundane and transcendent. What could that possibly mean? How does one ponder the meaning of the universe and one's minuscule place within it while eating a sandwich or the lunch that we just had? I want to suggest that both activities, pondering and eating, are fundamentally wound within what it means to be a global citizen. Thinking big about ourselves, our lives, is perhaps the same insight that inspired Diogenes to utter his famous phrase, "I am a citizen of the world." That over 2 millennia ago. And our daily eating habits are so intimately woven into the fabric of a networked planet in a beleaguered biosphere that one is literally eating from around the world at every meal. I want to invoke Martin Luther King here, who reminded us that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. Before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you've depended on more than half of the world. So how might one begin this work of educating for global citizenship? I offer a few starting points. 1, develop curriculum to illustrate how interdependent and interwoven that world is by having students examine their personal effects in clothing, where they came from, how they got into their hands, and how they will be eventually disposed of. 2, create opportunities for educators, as I know we're going to hear in the next session, about people able to learn about each other and from each other, those living just 5 kilometers away, those 500 kilometers away, those 5,000 kilometers away, through exchange programs and online dialogues about common interests and shared problems. 3, build gardens and grow food while studying how food, water, and power is sourced, generated, and supplied to the school, to the community, to their homes. 4, support educators learning about the world through professional development opportunities such as the online Global Competence Certificate program offered by us, Teachers College. There's my shameless plug, I apologize for that. Or take an online course with Jeffrey Sachs. He offers one on sustainability. It's quite good. I've participated in it myself with Columbia University. 5th, take advantage of the power of this group and of this meeting and of this forum, the UNAI. It's a powerful organization in that it has a lot of people who think very similarly about issues, collaborating in this space. You know, it's not often that I go to an event where I'm asked to speak that I feel completely simpatico with the people there and the mission that they're on. And yet when I come to events like this, it happens every time. That's unique in the world, and we should take advantage of that and try to spread that. Whatever path you choose, the work is complicated, it's demanding, and yet it is so necessary to live in a way that recognizes the immediacy of our lives and the interdependency of every interaction, while accepting how our connectedness winds us into events much larger than ourselves, those that will escape the boundaries of time so quickly. In each of my examples, I highlight simple, everyday tasks: wearing a hat, glancing in a mirror, eating a sandwich, whatever it might be, that symbolize much more profound matters. This is an enormous task, but it is what we must do to educate that child born today in Seoul and in every other city and town represented here in a manner that imagined the world that is not yet, one of peace, one of respect, one of justice, one of sustainability, in a way that perceives time with a sense of urgency, hears others with openness and humility, and moves to inhabit our daily practices with a profound sense of life. Thank you all. Enjoy the conversation we're about to have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you for that reference to trying to reconcile eating with pondering. And it reminds me of what you once said about the discipline of history, how you can only bring history alive if you relate it to the moment, if you relate the pondering to the eating. And I know you brought the analogy of the debate in the United States about the healthcare system and how that debate will be enriched for students if they were to see it from the prism of history, just as the study of history would be enriched if they were to see it from the prism of something that they were undergoing at that very moment. Your last very powerful telling thought, why not imagine the world as it could be, brings to mind the slogan or the motto of a very venerable institution in this country, one that was founded by our next speaker, President Yonggil Kim, Handong Global University, and its motto, why not change the world? As we heard from the CEO of Punsan University, President Kim is an inventor, but he is more than an inventor of metallurgical devices. He is also an inventor of ideas, an innovator, and we at the United Nations Academic Impact have been privileged to have access to many of those. And the one consistent theme in all that he has taught us is, if you are going to succeed, you need to change and alter minds. You cannot succeed with the minds you are given or the minds you have. I'm not an educator, but if I were, that would be a lesson I would heed. President Kim.
Good afternoon. I love you. We are talking about global citizenship education. Why? We have many global issues in the 21st century. Well, why don't you bring over here? Okay. Many of you have on the desk a paper. Do we have the paper? These are rules of UN academic impact with creative citizenship educations for sustainable development. Essentially, I use this text, I summarized in 10 minutes. So if you want to further use, please read these articles. The global issue in the 21st centuries are facing, we need a clean energies. We need a clean water, and also the shortage of food. Also, we do have many youth unemployment problems. Also, our morals and ethical is clapping down. Most big problem is we are facing the climate changes. These are all the few issues I like to present. This global issue could be alleviated by creative global citizenship educations. Education is actually two parts. One is a cognitive education or non-cognitive educations at all levels. It's a primary, secondary, and why do we need global citizenship educations? We emphasized on the cognitive educations. Cognitive is increasing with time, but on the other hand, we are decreasing with our moralities. So non-cognitive character is decreasing. We have a gap between the cognitive and non-cognitive. The decrease of the gap between cognitives and non-cognitives is a target and reason for creative global citizenship education. What is a GCD? And I would say global citizenship education aims to equip learners of all ages with those values, knowledges, and skills that are based on and instill respect for human rights and social justice, diversities, gender equalities, environmental sustainability, and that empower learners to be responsible for global citizens. There are three elements for the sustainable development goals. And one is economic stabilities. And another one is a social factors. Other one, environment. So this is three economic stabilities with a sustained, inclusive, and economic growth. On the other hand, also we have to pursue the social equity development and environmental protections. So this is all a component of the sustainable sustainable development. And this just showing, I'm not quickly go over MDGs. There are 8 elements that was proposed, launched in 2000. And there are why education is so important. 8 reasons why education is important to achieve MDGs. More people would, through education, grow and develop, learn and know, equal and just. More children would survive and live, and more mothers would healthier, and more people would be combat illness, and more people would think of the future. This more people would work together. This is an important element. Why education is so important? UNESCO, they suggested 5 pillars of education for sustainable development. Is learning to know, learning to be, learning to live together, learning to do, learning to transform and societies. And global citizens, through global citizens, should be responsible for all he or she says, does, and right. Global citizens should be honest and diligent in his or her academic and social life. Global citizens are willing to sacrifice and help others. And global citizens willing to live together globally, not only nationally, willing to transform the world. So global citizens need to be cooperate in resolving their interconnected challenges of global communities in the 21st centuries. Now, I'll also quickly go over the UN academic impact. That was launched in November 2010 by the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And the UNAI is aligned institution of higher education, scholarship, and research with UN and with each other to address priority issues with which our world is faced. It does that by offering viable point of contact for ideas and initiatives relevant to organizations' mandate and furthering their direct engagement in or contribution to relevant program and project. There's a UNAI had 10 basic universal principles: commitment to the UN Charters, human rights, educational opportunity for all, higher education opportunity for every interested individuals, and capacity building in higher education systems, global citizenship education through education, peace and conflict resolution, addressing poverty, sustainability, and intercultural dialogue. 3 pillars of and vision of UN academic impacts are peace, development, and human rights, according to the UN charters. UNAI, they selected 10 global hubs from 1 to 10. Here, the Handong Global University was a global hub for capacity building in higher education systems. In the UNI, there are 2 actually components. One is institution levels, this university member. And another one is Aspire group. Aspire is action by students to promote innovation and reform through education. In this room, there are many youngsters. Youngs is very important because future is theirs. So UNAI, Aspire group, they have each university student, they organize their own. So in the later and the 2 presentation by the UNAI Aspire student, Jeffy, this already we explained, and this also initiated by Secretary Ban Ki-moon. There are three priorities: put every child to schools, improving quality of learning. Here, also this 2012 started, and there are first global citizenship. And this September, world will agree upon new sustainable development goal after the MDG. You can check. You can find out that there are very similarity, very similar. SDG has about 17 goals. It is all interrelated with UNAI 10 principles. So to achieve the SDG, I think the UNAI can play an important role. Oh, this is my final slide. What's the UNAI roles? UNAI, one side is developing countries, there are developed countries, and there are many gaps. So UNAI could alleviate gap between developed countries. So UNAI actually combines UN organizations like UNAI, Aspire, UNESCO, UniTwins, and also higher education, university, and research centers. So UNAI is actually aligned to universities, higher educations, and UN organizations to solve the global issue in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for that last slide, which is really a charter of action for us at the Academic Impact, because you've been able to link every one of the proposed 17 Sustainable Development Goals with the 10 principles of UNAI. And I noticed in that when you were talking about UNAI's ability to bridge the developed and the developing world, I do want to, on behalf of Meher and myself and the Academic Impact, thank you, President Kim and President Chan of Handong Global University, for your initiative last year to hold a UNAI forum in Samoa at the time of the Conference of Small Island Developing States. And that was a wonderful opportunity where we really got a wealth of indigenous academic talent from the Republic of Korea and from Samoa gathering together to deal with very, very specific issues on the lines, President Kim, that you have suggested. I think we are probably ahead of our time schedule, so do we have any time now for
Actually, we don't. But
we don't?
Yeah, but if you
No, I mean,
you can open.
I mean,
the
if there
floor.
are, maybe if there are a couple of points or comments or questions, either for Ambassador Lee or for Bill or for President Kim, please do. I'm sure they'd be happy to respond to them before we have a coffee break. Please. Yeah, sorry, there's a mic coming there. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joe Lim, and I am from the World Federation of UN Associations.
Oh.
Yeah, hi. I have a question for the panelists who are here. What we mentioned was the importance of the value of understanding interdependence and also some non-cognitive education, which kind of stands apart from cognitive education. And I see these things as something that holds value, and these are value systems. And I was wondering what the panelists had to say about some possible policies or methods, teaching methods that actually build value and character in a person that kind of differentiates itself from the cognitive education.
Thank you. Why don't you begin with that, and then we'll pass the mic on to President Kim and Ambassador Lee if they have any ideas.
Sure, thank you for the question. I think it's a really important one, which is, I think you've already alluded to what I would offer as a response, which is it's an engagement in experiences that provide sense of satisfaction from those experiences that then sort of predispose a child to continue acting in that way. So I don't think it's a inculcation of value as much as it's an experience of the quality of doing something and then a reflection on it. So I would sort of invoke here John Dewey's conception of experience and how it is educative in the sense that the reflection on an experience then gives it value, and then it's something to then base moving forward from.
In order to change the education paradigm, we have to change the first content. Content should be different from the previous one. Also, there is pedagogy should be changed, transformative. Last is important is action. So the cognitive education could learn by the brain, but non-cognitive cannot learn by knowledges. We need the action, sacrifice, not easy. That's why it is difficult to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go away, Mr. President. You might be needed again. Any other thoughts or comments before? Or maybe we shall go for coffee now.
Yes.
And if there are some thoughts later, I'm sure that our chairman will indulge us and allow those to come later in the afternoon. Thanks very much, and thank you for joining us for the session.
Thank you. Now we will have a 10 minutes break, and the discussion session will be resumed at 2:30.